you attribute all those to Bob and then you read them, you read about what Bob has overcome in life. It's not yourself anymore. It's
You'd be
another
impressed.
person. Yeah. But what happens is, remember this, kids are seeing everything in life for the first time.
And now I think the question is, what can we tell the audience that is useful if they're on their own out there, if they are recovering, if they're in the middle of addiction? I think there's so much each individual out there has that they don't value or appreciate about themselves. And again, going back to my objects relations sort of proclivity is everybody can find meaning, worth, and value in themselves, and that defines your idea and of you and your identity and how you deal with the world. And if you look at that and really meditate on that, it takes away anxiety, it takes away depression, it takes away panic attacks, because those are all your concepts of what someone might be thinking about you out there, right? Yeah. Well, once you start to have that connection with yourself, now you can have resilience, ability to change, and very minimal concern. And a lot of these folks out there have all of this. Almost everybody does. Yeah. It's not recognized or appreciated. But what else can we give them in terms of tools to start exercising that resilience?
One exercise that I like to, for the audience to consider, the people out there, is Doctor just, named off that many of you have gone through traumatic life events, adversities at a young age, things that are sometimes even unthinkable, let alone to experience. But we forget, because it's a first-hand experience, we forget actually how powerful the human being has to be to navigate through those things. And we have low self-esteem and we're struggling with addiction or mental health. But I like to do this exercise, which I like to depersonify. I like to separate the person from the experience. Mm-hmm. And instead of, let's say, your name is Joe and you've gone through all these experiences, but you can't see the resilience that you have. You can't see the strength that it's developed in your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul. Well, let's look at someone else. Now let's name Bob. And I want you to consider that all these things that Bob has gone through, and take a pen and paper and write down all the things in your life that you've overcome from the time you're little. And now let's put that to Bob. When you attribute all those to Bob and then you read them, you read about what Bob has overcome in life. It's not yourself anymore. It's
You'd
another
be impressed.
person. Yeah. Not only would you be impressed, you would even go as far as saying that is one resilient human being. That is one person that has overcome all the odds. That is one person that has not given up despite of the world giving up on them. That is one person that continues to try despite of failure. That is one person that understands that, the possibility of transformation exists for them. And when you see that, and then one day you realize that you are that person, and that will happen, by the way. You realize you are that person, and that builds another protective factor for resiliency, which is confidence.
Absolutely.
It builds a certain level of confidence. So you gotta, I always say you are not your story, because a lot of people over-identify with their story. But stories also have beautiful learning lessons. And when you look at it, when you separate it from yourself and just look at it, what it is that you've experienced, all of a sudden you're like, wow, maybe I do have just a little bit more resiliency than I thought.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I think whatever and whoever you're using as a therapeutic intervention, talk therapeutic intervention, and I use that term, psychoanalysis, whatever you want to call it. I think you should pursue that, recognize that, capitalize and piggyback on that to find value, self-worth, and more resilience and appreciation of yourself to move forward. Yeah. I want to introduce, since we're on this, I want to bring something else up for the audience and get Parham's feedback on it. As we're talking about resilience, in terms of trauma, adverse events, substance abuse, I want to point something out, and correct me if I'm wrong if you think I'm my theoretical construct, and also practical. I have some experience. Yeah. For those of you that have children, or for those of you that work with children, small children, all the way up even to the teen years, but more importantly, the younger ones, up to 7, 8, 9, 10. Think about this. I would not describe my state of being in this world, or Parham's or Ashley's, as static. It's dynamic, and we're coping with a complex environment. A developing child is dynamic on steroids.
Yeah.
Because it's actually, you're building a system in a very complex, dynamic, changing system to cope with systems.
Yeah.
That being said, which is true, what you're really doing is imparting, in the best scenario, healthiest environments, you're imparting and teaching your child resilience, whether it's to solve their own problems, whether it's to deal with adversity in the future, whether it's building discipline to achieve something in the long term. And I want to remind you folks out there that what's been described here, from the way I understand it, is a key ingredient and component of building that is the relationship with those objects that are near and dear, and how they end up finding meaning in that developing traditional ego and self. And in this way, I think, is the most beneficial and cheapest prevention for the future of substance abuse and mental health issue. That's what I have to say. Give me any feedback, or if you think I'm wrong.
No, man, I agree, because I've said this before, and we've shared the same sentiment, that human beings, we're developing in a moment by moment by moment interaction with our environment. Okay. Now, when you're a child, it's like on steroids. So each interaction is also creating neural pathway connections. It's creating memories. It's creating the ways you think about yourself, the ways you view the world. It's creating so much more at a rapid, fast pace than with adults, even though it never stops, by the way. It's always continuing to develop. But what happens is, remember this, kids are seeing everything in life for the first time. Every experience a child goes through is for the first freaking time. So when they're seeing something, when they're scanning something, when they're experiencing something, this is why the attachment to a healthy primary caregiver becomes important. Because just like you, if you're seeing something for the first time, wouldn't you really want someone to help you understand what it is that you're looking for, and allow you to see what you see and have a potential discussion that's age appropriate to ensure that you feel safe and to feel connected and to feel seen and to feel heard. And that's the preventative stuff. We have the ability to actually influence a person's ability to tap into their resiliency later on in life by the preventative stuff of making sure that when they're going through life experiences, that we're present, that we're there, we're secure, we're emotionally close, we're able to help them understand what it is they're experiencing. And by the way, when they make mistakes, when they feel adversity, sometimes they're going through it for the first time. That's actually when you need to be there the most.
Yep.
That's when you need to be there the most.
So I think we took this concept of resilience. We're not so interested for practical purposes, whether it's a trait and so forth. We do know that it's an important vehicle to understand growth, development, dealing with trauma, substance abuse, and recovery. And just by pointing that out to you, how much resilience you have, can be a great vehicle to give you insight into yourself and value and meaning. And it could be a great component of your therapeutic framework, whatever it is you're recovering from. I think that's what we gained out of this, huh?
Yeah, and the very last thing I want to share for anybody out there that still doesn't, fall in the school of like this could potentially be something that human beings have inside of them is, after every natural disaster in the world, right? We got a micro level of the individual, and we have a societal level, we call it the macro level. Look at the history of the world, and every time there's a natural disaster, there's a catastrophe, something really bad happens, right? We all say we commend the freaking resiliency of the people of that community, and guess what they all do together? They all come together.
They bind and
And here's the thing. If it wasn't in us, that would never happen. It is never forced. It comes very naturally and organically. That demonstrates that we have it in us, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of us in our lives, we've experienced natural disasters. We've experienced tragedies, catastrophes, nightmares. And guess what? We still have that on a micro level. We still have that same freaking thing that exists in our society. It's just a matter of nurturing it. It's just focusing on it and using it for our healing, recovery, and transformation journey.
Agreed. I think that's a wonderful way to put it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Today we talked about resilience, its place in trauma, its place in substance abuse, its place in the therapeutic framework, its place in child development. Do we have anything else to add?
No, and its place in society.
Its place in society. It's a big component. So consider that. Think about it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will see you soon. We have a lot of content coming for you. We got an ebook coming out on, I think it's going to be called How to Be Successful in Recovery. Yeah, and it's both Parham and myself. We got that coming out. It's free. We got some other things coming out. We'll see you guys soon, and peace.
Take care, guys.